you're known as the international divorce lawyer.
We have kids and she's left with the kids. What do I do? Then we get some extreme ones like child abduction, obviously.
What does this world of kind of high net worth divorces with an international angle look like?
I'm in England. Can you file child abduction? Well, no, I can't file it because she didn't abduct your child. She's just not coming back. Men and women that are crying. And it's hard because with the men, it's mostly about their kids. And they get really upset saying she's taken the child from me. She won't let me see the child.
Assalamu alaikum, welcome to the channel. Today I've got with me a very special guest, Samara Iqbal. Welcome Samara, welcome to the Islamic Finance Guru YouTube channel and podcast.
Wa alaikum salam, thanks for having me.
Really nice to have you. So Samara, I have to kick off with your kind of public profile. So you're known as the international divorce lawyer.
You're making me laugh.
You seem a bit almost shy of it. But what's led to that brand almost?
So when people say international, it just means that you're a family lawyer, but you kind of have a speciality or a niche. So obviously, when you start saying you're international, it just means that you're dealing with more people living internationally, and you've got more of an expertise in that area.
Okay, so tell me, what's the story? How did that begin? Did you always start off doing this, or what's the story?
No, I mean, just to summarize, how it started was I was just obviously I did my training contract, I did a family seat, I enjoyed family more than the other seats. And then when I was quite, after a couple of years of doing family law, learning kind of all the basic stuff, I came out to Dubai. And before that, obviously, I have studied Sharia law in Damascus before I did my training. So I'm a Sharia scholar in terms of studying, doing exams in Arabic, learning it fluently. For someone who never knew any Arabic, literally it was very, very hard. So I had to learn everything, the basics. So alhamdulillah, I can read the Quran and Hadith and any Arabic text as well very well. So obviously I came to Dubai on holiday, I think, years ago. And a lawyer that I knew, a British lawyer, was like, look, you need to work with me. I need a family lawyer here who's British but knows kind of Arabic and etc. So I was like, okay, fine. And I kind of was like, shall I not? And I didn't even know the market then. So I wasn't sure how it works here. And obviously things have changed since then. And then I said yes, kind of took the plunge, moved out here. And then I started working and I found it really hard initially because the clients here are different, the expat clients. So the people I was meeting were people that wanted wills, were asking questions about probate. There was family clients coming. So obviously it's a very kind of specific area. And then I started kind of going to the courts, speaking to local lawyers, speaking to people at the court, meeting judges, really just kind of one hand, going in and just really delving in and just finding out, oh my God, it works like this, it works like that, looking at papers. People would come to the office with Arabic court papers saying, oh, my wife's filed something, what is this? Oh, I've got this succession certificate, what does it mean? Oh, somebody's passed away in the UK or in the US, what do I do? And I learned so much just kind of doing it day to day, and I really enjoyed it. And obviously having the Arabic really helped. And I think a lot of the clients, especially knowing that, oh, she can speak Arabic or she looks Arab, because I used to wear the hijab then as well. So they were like, oh, we want you to deal with it. And I was like, wow, this is quite a niche area. And back then, obviously, the courts were all Sharia courts. So there was no kind of differentiation of are you Muslim, non-Muslim? So I started doing it, really enjoyed it. And then I guess that's when I became an international family lawyer. But then what happened was I kind of left that to kind of come back to the UK, get married, start a family. And that's when I started off my own brand in the UK. So when I had my first baby, I thought, you know what, I want to work for myself. So I did work for another firm before that, still doing family law, specialising, but no kind of international element. And you find it quite boring. So when you've done something quite more challenging and more different, and you're dealing with all these nationalities, and they've got this there and that going on, to go back to kind of plain old family law, it's great. I'm not criticising, but it's not the same. And I get that when I talk to people as well. And then when I set up, I remember my husband asking me what do you want to do? And I was like, expat work, what I was doing over there. And I want to still target those clients. And he was like, well, you can. We'll just start here. And it was COVID as well. So I was like, great, I'm starting in COVID. I've got my license now. And then slowly, family law issues never go away. So in the UK, I was still getting work. I was doing it quite organically, having my kids. And then when the opportunity came last year to set up in the UAE, because before they would not allow us to have a license unless you were local. So when I found that ADGM had this new opportunity for you to come have a license, but obviously it was quite hard to get, so it took me about a year. But I got the license last year, and I was really happy because this now has allowed us to also branch out here into the Middle East a bit more and be able to target all these expatriate families, people here that need help with things. So yeah, I guess that's what we do. So that's the kind of journey in a bit of a summary for you.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's so much to kind of go into, but I think what I really want to get out of our discussion today is, firstly, just drawing out some of the really interesting kind of stories that I'm sure you've encountered through your years. And then I'd also love, the advice that you've got for our viewers and listeners, right? In terms of, because I speak to so many people that are here. Usually it's the ones that are here who've been here a bit longer, where, as you know, like the older you get and often the wealthier you get and the more assets you kind of build up, the more complicated life becomes. And I'm sure a lot of our viewers can resonate with that.
Yeah, of course.
And particularly when you're here in the UAE as an expat, or anywhere, frankly, as an expat, there's always that kind of the international element, right? So I'd love through the course of this discussion to kind of, draw out your advice as well. But, going back to my first point, so, clear on everything that you've done and everything that you've worked towards so far, what would you say the most common kind of cases that come up for you nowadays? So what's like a typical month?
A typical case is, you get somebody contacting you. Hi, I'm in France. My wife is in Qatar. We have kids and she's left with the kids. What do I do? I was doing proceedings in France, but obviously now I need a lawyer over there. How can you help me? Then we get someone in Dubai saying, hi, with me and my wife are not agreeing on things. She's saying she wants to relocate back to the UK, for example. What do I do? Or we get another one saying, my wife's left with the kids. She said she's not coming back.
Wow.
I'm here in Dubai. What can I do? And then you get normal ones saying, we want a divorce. We want it to be amicable. Can we reach an agreement? Can you help? Oh, I've got a letter from a lawyer. This is what she wants. I don't really agree. Can you help? Then we get some extreme ones like child abduction, obviously. So we've had to file cases in the UK, file cases here. And then you just get also like prenuptial agreements. Hi, I'm thinking of getting married. Do you think I think I need a prenup? What can I do? Can I do one here that's legalized and is recognized? Should I do one in this country? And it's kind of working out for these families or these different nationalities, because Dubai is a massive place, and it's like everybody meets each other and then they want to get married. So you get someone I met someone yesterday, he's British but Scottish, and his wife is Brazilian, and they're having a baby, and he's like, okay, so we got married in Abu Dhabi, but what do I do about this? What do I do about that? What if she wants to leave? Everyone's got different worries as well, because what happens is when a marriage breaks down or one party wants to leave, that's when mum and dad kind of get worried, because women will come and say, what do I do? My husband's saying I can't go back and I don't really want to be here anymore. I want to go back home. And you get a husband saying, what shall I do? I think she wants to leave. Can I stop her? So we get that's the kind of scenarios we get. And we get the normal kind of the UK cases, at the standard, but the international side is a bit more complex. So they need more advice, and they need financial advice as well.
So I want to kind of go into this world with you a bit. So let's just take one of the types of cases that you just mentioned. So divorce or marriage issues, right? And within a marriage, there's typically lots of things going on. There's assets, there's children sometimes, and of course there's disagreement or perhaps animosity between the couple as well. So like, what does this world of kind of high net worth divorces with an international angle look like? And I'd also love for you to talk about the first time that you kind of came across something like this and how you realized that there was something here in terms of a niche for you.
I think with in terms of high net worth clients and the niche, I mean, you get really, really affluent people here with a lot of money that they've brought here. So they like, I had one client, he was literally a billionaire from India, and he had set up here, and his wife, and they had like millions in their accounts. And I was like, is this normal? And then they were like, we've got this in the States, we've got this in the UK, we've got this in India, we've invested here, she's got this much, I've got this. And I'm like, okay, and how can we help? We're not agreeing on this. And it could be just, they might agree on the money, but they don't agree on the child spending time. Maybe she wants to relocate, then he's worried. Can she file something in the UK because they've got a UK link? So when we get these types of cases, and we get like people, from loads of countries with lots of assets, but in the UAE especially, most people are doing quite well. they've got high positions. They have a lot of money. We've had people who are heads of big companies here, and they've said, my wife wants a divorce. What shall I do? How do I protect myself? What do I need to do? Where do I need to go? I don't have a prenup, but I have got this here and I've got that here. What should I do about this? What should I do about it? And sometimes they're okay. I've got someone recently, he's coming into millions. He's British, but his wife's not, she's Italian. And he was like, I want a divorce, but can I do it quickly before I get this money? And, so she can't touch it, but it's like, hang on. There's still always risks that are involved of someone claiming afterwards. So I think when we've got these cases, we've sometimes had to call other experts in to give them, for example, financial advice, so that they can look at, do they need to offshore? Do they need to do something else? Kind of put things in trusts and stuff like that. But also we have to make sure that they've got the correct advice in terms of where their assets are. So if somebody has got something in India or someone's got something in the US, talking to experts there. So it's great because what I've done is I've built up a network of trusted lawyers in different jurisdictions. So even if I don't do it, obviously I don't wear every hat. Yes, in the Middle East, I'm doing my bit. But if it's another country, Australia, New Zealand, Italy, Spain, Lebanon, we've got Turkey, we've got lawyers sat there who are family specialists as well, and they've got their own network. So what we do is we just pass it on and say, look, can you help this person? And they've helped. And then my clients come back saying, actually, he's helped me with that case there. So I had one guy, and it was a crazy case. He was Egyptian born, she was living in the UK. They had their kids in the UK, so they acquired UK residence. Then she went off to Doha. He moved to Turkey. He filed proceedings in Turkey. She started proceedings in the UK. And then she was contesting Turkey. And then he's gone to Doha and fighting there. And then he's like telling me, can I defend UK? Can you get a lawyer for me to get rid of Turkey now? Because we're not there anymore. She kind of left. And can we deal with Doha now? And I was like, yeah, it's just like a whirlwind. So we're like trying to make sure we can cover each aspect. And sometimes you talk to these clients, you're like, okay, wait. But what we're going to deal with first, what's the most important? And then it's like dealing with each aspect. And then the client's like, okay, so I'm going to do that there, I'm going to do that this. I was like, yeah, but we need evidence of this. But he's like, but I filed in Egypt, I filed over here as well. So hang on, you've got 5 jurisdictions. Do you understand? This kid, and he's my client, and he's such a nice guy. And he's big as well in his own way, and her family's big. But it's just crazy because people get themselves into such a mess. And it's like, just try and stick to one place. That's why we come in. So when they come to us, they're like, oh, I've got something in Cyprus, I've got something in New Zealand, but I live in Dubai, but we're British, Okay, so let's look at this. And then we get people, I had one last week, she's married to a rich doctor here, and he's filed a case in Abu Dhabi. She's fled, and she's like, I don't want to do it in Abu Dhabi, I want to do it here. Well, he started first. We can't just kick it out. Can you get him to do it? And ask him, well, I'm going to fight here. I don't want to do it in that country. I've left now. So, you have to kind of just give them that advice, but also tell them that, look, he started first. So wherever it started first, essentially they've won jurisdiction. So the court has to be satisfied that you can file. And then we get people saying, oh, but my wife's in France, I'm in England. Can you file child abduction? Well, no, I can't file it because she didn't abduct your child. She's just not coming back. And you haven't agreed. So, and also we need to go to France. Okay. Do you understand? Can I not do it from UK? No, because your child lives in France. His residence is in France. Okay. So I said the court won't deal with that, but they'll deal with other stuff. So it's really sometimes quite technical as well. But it's trying to work out. And sometimes, obviously, if I don't have an answer, I will say to them, like, I'm going to have to put you in touch with someone. I'll find out because that's the whole point. And I'll find out if you can file there. And maybe you can agree there because maybe you've got more assets there. It's better than doing it here. But more and more people are filing in the UAE because it's a lot easier now. It's a better system. Like I said, they've changed things so much. So I think it's just a lot easier and quicker. They're resident here. Their money's here. Their salary's here. The bank accounts are here. Kids are living here in school. So it's easier for them to do it here. But then, I have people saying, why is she filed in the UK? We've been here for 20 years. Really annoyed. British men as well. Like, why? I'm not going to deal. Why is she doing that? I don't know. Maybe a lawyer told her to do that.
So what are the most common kind of mistakes that you see? So let's say a couple comes to you. There's this kind of situation, lots of assets, lots of different places, and I'm sure at some point you've thought to yourself, God, if I could have just spoken to them 10 years ago and said, don't do A, B, and C, what would that be?
So common mistakes would be people not listening, obviously. So sometimes you get I think the men always come for advice first, but they don't take action. I think men are like that. They want to talk, saying, my marriage is not working. what can she get? What will happen? How does it work here? So sometimes they just want general advice. And then 6 months later, a year later, they call you and say, hi, do you remember me? I came to see you. Oh, yeah, I remember. Right, well, she's gone.
So did you take the advice I told you?
Yeah, she's gone and it got worse and she's gone with the kids now. What do I do? Well, she's gone now. So if you'd come back to me, if you'd come to me earlier, we could have done something. We could have put some orders in place. We could have stopped her. Now she's gone. Now you're going to have to go deal with that country now as well. And deal with here too if you want to. And it's really complicated. And you get some women as well coming and saying, you know, he's doing this, but I don't want to leave. You know, because obviously it's hard for women as well because they've got kids, they're quite financially dependent. So they'll always want to leave, but they're like, oh, he's been cheating, but, you know, we are trying to work on things. Let me just give it some time. And then it's awful to say this, but you kind of know what's going to happen. But you can't force anyone to leave a relationship because some people keep going back. Men do as well. Women do keep going back, giving a second chance. And then before you know it, it's like, oh, well, you know, it's now... he's gone and he's taken the money and he's blocked me off and actually he's done this, he's done that, what do I do? But did you not take those steps I told you to protect yourself? And then I think to myself, if only you would listen to my advice before about doing this, doing that. And some people don't. But I think it's with clients, there is obviously mistakes that they should do. They always should get some advice, even if they don't ever get divorced, even if they don't ever need to use a lawyer again. I think always, if you've got questions, you just want to ask questions, even if it's things like, should I get a prenup? You know, where should I marry before you're taking the steps? Because that's important. But once you are married, then, you know, if you've got some issues already, just highlight, just maybe saying, well, we're not really getting on, but what can happen because I'm living here, can this, and you can maybe put things in place. I think it's always good, especially if you're an expat living in the UAE, for example. And obviously you don't know what kind of happens here if something happens with the kids, with money, with schooling, with visas. You know, there's so many different issues because it's not as easy as it is back home sometimes. Get some advice and then at least then you can't ever say no one told you.
So that's really interesting. So in terms of the children side of it then, so you mentioned some cases of, you know, taking the children with them and, you know, complications that can arise from that. I assume you've seen crazy stuff over the years.
So I had one case which was crazy. So what happened was, so this man was living in Dubai, had been married before to his first wife. So both were Pakistani. The first wife was in London, and when they were married, they had loads of money. So he was like, you know, in the like Pakistan CIA or something, you know, he was, you know, in intelligence, so he made loads of money, and they had like properties all over the world, lots of assets, lots of offshore companies. So when she was with him, they were very wealthy. So he bought her like these really expensive flats in London, in the States, you know, other countries, Pakistan. He divorced her, but he didn't do it as a British divorce. He did like an Islamic divorce in Pakistan. And then what she did years later, even though he'd remarried to an Arab woman and was living in Dubai on the Palm, he didn't, because he didn't divorce her legally, what she did was she brought proceedings against him in the UK. So it's like after. So when you don't have a financial consent order and you don't have a clean break with your wife, what will happen is if you accumulate wealth, and the woman hasn't remarried, he did. So he was barred, she wasn't. So if he had, for example, won the lottery or he became really rich overnight, you know, got loads of money working in Dubai, she can still come after him, basically. That's what it means. So what she did was she said to the court, he divorced me in Pakistan, but he actually never gave me a fair settlement. He gave me this, and one flat, and that's it. But I should be having more. And she had a son with him who was probably a lot older now. And the court was like, okay, you can bring this claim. So what happened was he had to be dragged back into court. But guess what? He had dementia.
Oh my God.
So he didn't remember anything.
Oh, wow.
So his new wife was my client.
Oh, God.
She was younger and they had kids and they were living in Dubai. So the new wife was like, hang on. So my husband can't even remember anything. He doesn't even know what they had.
Oh.
Yes, they had money. He probably did buy all of that. But she was saying to the court, we don't have anything now. We've got a little bit of money. We've got some properties in the States, but we don't have anything. Then what this wife's lawyers did in London, they froze all the properties that he did have, or that he'd put on the new wife's name, saying, well, that should be part of proceedings, which the court did. So this new wife was so angry. Husband can't remember anything. She had to fill all the financial forms in, and she became what you call a litigation friend. So you're using someone to say, well, my brother or my husband can't do it, so I'm doing it. And again, that was complex because it's complex proceedings. at the High Court in London. And there's so much going on. And the other side are building up cost after cost, saying he should be paying £10,000 a month. He should be doing this. And the court ordered it all. And the new wife was saying, we don't have this money. We can't pay. We're already in debt. And obviously she had to prove it. And then guess what happened during these proceedings? He died.
Oh my gosh.
He died in Dubai.
Oh God.
And I had to get the marriage certificate, send it there. And they were like even questioning, is it a proper document?
Oh my God.
And I was like, yes, he died. He just, obviously he was not well.
Yeah.
And she even said to me, she's like, he literally doesn't talk. He doesn't do anything. He's like a child. We have a carer coming. He died.
Oh my God.
So he died. And then what happened was the whole proceedings changed. And they were like, well, it's not a family case anymore. It's like it goes to like inheritance and succession, because essentially the first wife doesn't have a claim anymore. If she's an heir, she does. So the whole case changed. And her lawyers were like, no. But she's got all these costs. She still should get something. And they tried to argue and they appealed it. And because they appealed it, we won the appeal. But then they took it to the Supreme Court.
Wow.
So it got to the Supreme Court. And obviously the judges upheld it. But guess what? While it was waiting at the Supreme Court, the wife died, the first wife.
Oh my God.
Can you believe that? So the husband and the wife, original ones, died.
Oh my gosh.
And this case became like a big case. It was like a recorded case. So it was like in the news. It was like a precedent.
Wow.
And it was crazy.
What's the case if people want to look it up?
It's called, I would call it Hassan v. Hassan. Something like that.
Okay.
Hassan v. Hassan. But it's a recorded case. So it's all everywhere. So if you Google it, it will come up.
Oh
so
my
we
God.
got it to the Supreme Court, and then she went to another firm that did it pro bono at the end.
Right.
But we got it there, and I had it for about 2 years, and it was crazy.
So what was the result? Did the first
No, the
wife's
court
estate
upheld it.
Okay.
That it should go to succession. It can't kind of carry on with family.
Right.
So they weren't going to change the status. But what the other side was challenging was, no, it should change. Because she should still get something because she was the first wife. But the court said, no, now that he's died, it goes as per his will if he's got one, or as per his heirs.
Wow.
And essentially, she's not his heir, but the son is from the first marriage that she had. But he'd already given things to his son.
Right.
But then obviously the second wife and her 2 daughters, they were going to get something. And then all her properties had to get unfrozen. And then it all finished. But it was crazy because she got in touch with me. She was like, Samara, they're both dead. I'm still at court and my properties are still frozen. She was like, and it was really sad because she was so lovely.
Yeah.
And I felt so bad because she was like having to pay legal fees and get money to pay. She was like, I don't even have any money. And then towards the end, like I said, the another firm was like, we'll just finish it off pro bono. She was like, look, I can't pay anymore. And I was sad to see her go, but it was such an interesting case because I got it really early on.
Yeah.
And I never knew in hindsight it was going to be this massive case.
Wow.
But I definitely think it's interesting because A, he didn't know anything, remember anything. And B, they both died.
Yeah,
and the whole thing changed.
It's like a movie. It's like a movie plot.
Crazy.
Maybe you can make a Netflix movie on it.
And it was just so much paperwork. There was so much going on. There was so many costs, and I was like, wow, massive case.
And what about from a personal angle then? Because obviously you're dealing daily with divorce and child issues and all this kind of stuff. What kind of impact does that have on you at a personal level, or are you able to kind of separate it emotionally?
You have to separate, but you do feel for your client. So when you have people, men and women, that are crying, and it's hard because with the men it's mostly about their kids, and they get really upset saying she's taken the child from me, she won't let me see the child. You get really emotional because you really feel like that's, because I can understand even that a father has yes, you're the mum, but he's got this relationship with these kids and you've just gone and disappeared. And it's really hard because you meet these men and they're struggling. And I think when it comes to financial stuff, they deal with it. I think when it comes to their kids, it's very, very hard. So it's sometimes hard, but I do generally feel, I can imagine how you feel. Same with women that are going through, domestic violence, and the guy's been controlling her and doing this to her and whatever. It's hard, and she's been abused, so you're listening to her as well. And obviously a lot of cases in the UK that are kind of DV cases, we do pass it on to legal aid people if we can't help anyway. Because some women obviously can't afford much, and obviously we still want to put them in touch with the right people. But I think it is hard to sometimes separate, and we have to, but it's so hard to manage everyone as well because they're emotional, they've got these expectations, and then something happened and like the husband will call saying, I went to pick the kids up today and she was doing this, and then she called the police on me, and we have to deal with it. She sent me this email, she's being difficult, can you deal with it? And you have to, it's like you're that person they go to. Can I talk to you 5 minutes, really urgent, this has happened? And you have to literally, you're doing something else, you're like, okay, fine, I'll call you. What's happened? Right, this has happened, she's doing this. can she do this? Is she allowed? And same with the woman, oh, he's doing this, he's being difficult, or he sent these papers, what do I do? Or he's not paid me this month, why is he doing it? You know, and it's different things. And you have to really try to differentiate or have boundaries to a certain degree, but then you are drawn in. So it's a very hard balance. But I don't think it overtakes me emotionally because, you know, and that's why solicitors can't act for family members because, you know, you don't have that boundary. If it's your sister going through a divorce and you're helping her, obviously you're going to be more emotional, have a lot of more interest in the case. So you had this recently where it was a sister doing the case and we were like, hang on. And she was very fiery. We were like, well, we know why you're fiery because it's your sister and you shouldn't even be on this. So we had to kind of get her taken off. So do you understand? It's very difficult. So you have to differentiate yourself, but also you are protecting their interests. So you have to be a bit fiery as well to a certain degree. So if the other side is being aggressive, the client does want you also to be aggressive back, but you have to ask them, do you want me to be aggressive or do you want me to keep my tone a bit more amicable because I have to manage what you want? Because if I go harsh or aggressive with them, it's just going to escalate things and we might end up at court. But if you want me to kind of keep it out of court and not push threats of court and this and that, I can do that as well. We always ask them at the beginning, how do you want our tone to be? But obviously that tone can change. And
do you have to sometimes kind of temper client expectations as well? Because
always, yeah. So we, you know, sometimes it's not in our hands, so the court's slow. The other side's taking ages coming back and they're like, what's happening? We've chased them, they haven't come back to us. What's happening with this? There's a delay, you know, because courts delay things. The other side delays. Sometimes something hasn't been filed on time, a hearing gets adjourned, you know, and the clients get frustrated. So we always say to them, look, we'll do this, but we have to manage your expectations. It probably won't happen. So as long as that person knows, so if someone goes to me, for example, I'm a dad, I want sole custody, it's not really going to happen because they live with her, they spend all their time with her. You're probably just going to get what you've got unless she agrees. So we have to manage them and say, look, we can try, but I've got to let you know I don't think it will happen. I think the court's going to go that way.
Yeah.
You know, and it's same with UAE, you know, we have to tell them, he says, I want this, I want that. And then the wife says, no. We're like, you can argue it, but it could be that the court agrees with the wife. And then some men will say, why is it not fair? Why do women always get the kids? I always say it's not about women getting the kids. It's like the status quo. So if the kids have always been with mum, they expect mum to stay. But if kids are spending a lot more time with dad, the courts also want dads involved too.
Do you think that attitude's different here versus the UK?
I think with UAE it's changed a lot because they are now, for non-Muslims especially, and even Muslims can have it, they want joint custody. So what they want is both parents have equal decisions and ideally child or children spend time equally with both parents. But obviously if father's travelling a lot for work, he's got that kind of job, he might just say, well, I can just see them when I'm here or on the weekends or the holidays. But they're definitely pushing more for equal kind of joint custody.
In this part of the world, hasn't it been the case that it's preferred for the children to be with the father, or am I mistaken?
In this country, no. I think only with the Sharia court, especially if the kids get to a certain age, father can ask, or if the wife remarries, then obviously she retracts like her condition to keep the kids. So a Muslim man could then say, well, I'm having the kids because she's A, remarried, B, if she wants to move, she can move, my kids are staying here, I live here. And essentially the man has, I wouldn't call it the upper hand, but he has more rights in terms of getting his kids to stay. That's the Sharia court. But with the non-Muslim court or the civil side, they're pushing for joint custody. And what they want is kids spending 1 week with dad, 1 week with mom, or like a couple of days with mom, a couple of days with dad, or they live with mom, but dad has as much access to them as possible. And that's what kind of agreements what we're doing now. Right.
That's super interesting. So what you're saying then is that it's kind of this part of the world has evolved, well, maybe evolved is the wrong word, but changed somewhat from the kind of Sharia court system and everything runs through that to more kind of specific setups that are kind of mirroring perhaps a bit more the Western legal system. Is that fair?
So I think with the Sharia court, they still will stick to the Sharia rules, like I said to you, about a certain age limit, and if mum remarries or anything's breached, father can try and get full custody. But usually they still want the kids to live with mum to a certain age, and if children then want to live with dad or mum, they can decide. But I think the UAE, especially with the non-Muslim side or the civil side, they are following the West more, because what they want to do is attract more and more non-Muslim expats, because this climate here is 80% expats. So they want more people to come here and live here, and they don't want them to be scared that, hang on, if you come here with your families, you're going to be subject to Sharia law, which probably was the case back in the day. But that's why it's all changed. That's what we're doing our talk on, is how much it's changed, like historically, socially, legally. Like now, you don't need to worry. No one's going to make you go to a Sharia court. You've got access to a full civil court where they will not look at these things, and you'll have, there's no fault divorces like the UK, for example. There's joint custody for fathers. The fathers have full equal share to their kids. And that's even with the Dubai court as well and the Abu Dhabi civil court. And it's definitely pushing more and more that side because I think they want to make it more accessible, more attractive. And I think it's a brilliant initiative because you've got so many non-Muslim families living here, working here. I've been here for years, and you want more people to come. You know, have a court, a unique court for them that they can deal with a civil court where it's not dealt with by religion, because they are not Muslims, you know. Yes, if they're Muslims, fair enough, it deals with a Muslim court, but have a full court for them where everything can be taken care of. And Dubai court itself has streamlined as well, the non-Muslim and Muslim court as well. So it's very similar to that, but it's not called a civil court yet. But who knows, Dubai might open its own civil court. Each emirate might have its own civil court soon. But I think Abu Dhabi really, and I call it a game changer, they've changed it drastically. And when I say that they've really, like, it's a first of its kind to have a court like this, where they're dealing with things purely in a civil way. There's nothing to do with religion attached to it. And obviously people can make applications, get married. There's no issues, prenups, divorces, fast, remotely done. And I think other countries in the Middle East will probably follow suit. They're probably a bit behind still, but I think as this carries on and it's taken off, it will be something that everyone's going to follow.
And from a Muslim family perspective, can you choose like where you want proceedings to happen?
So at the moment with Abu Dhabi Civil Court, generally a new precedent's going to come soon where the Muslims can apply, because it's just saying non-Muslims, so I can't say too much, but it might be that a ruling comes very soon that non-Muslims can apply too. So I think at the moment that's going through at the moment, so we're waiting for a ruling on that. So when that comes through, that's going to be a bit of an eye-opener, because then could Muslims use it as well?
Yeah.
Because what happens in the UAE, Mohsin, is you do get Muslims marrying non-Muslims. So you meet people and he's like, I'm not Muslim, but she is. And he's like, I know I can't use the Dubai court. No, you can't. So you'll have to use Abu Dhabi. Do you understand? And then you get other people, like the woman is not Muslim, but the husband is by name. Because you have a name like Muhammad, but you're not really practicing. If you came to Dubai court and said, well, I'm not Muslim, they'd work out, hang on. Doesn't matter whether you practice or not, your name, your family name is Muslim. Yeah. So it's still like a bit grey there, but I think with Abu Dhabi court, once that is established, whether Muslims can also use it fully, because I thought it was that case, but I was told recently that they're waiting for a ruling on that.
Right.
But then it could be that Muslims want to use it; they might be able to. They don't really want to avoid.
Interesting.
Dubai, but like I said, Dubai might start its own civil court. Things are changing a lot.
That's really interesting. I want to use the final kind of segment of the podcast to, on behalf of the viewers, take some free legal advice from you. So, you know, let's just take me as an example, right? So I'm married, 3 kids, expat.
Do you really want me to give you?
I'm sure the viewers are keen to understand that, okay, you know, none of us ever thinks that, you know, this kind of situation is going to happen. And I'm sure you could tell that story 1,000 times over with your clients. But if you could speak to, you know, the average expat that's coming over in my situation, for example, or perhaps people who are, you know, 10 years, 15 years into their journey here with, you know, assets built up all around the world and all that kind of stuff, what do you think is like a good checklist for people to, you know, kind of work their way through? So like, you know, a will or, you know, all this kind of stuff. Like what advice would you give just to make sure that your kind of personal life is in order? Yeah,
I think this is a very good question, because I think your example, you've got 3 kids, you've moved out here, you've established a business here, it's growing, you know, you might be here for 10, 20 years, you could be here for a long time. You're here, you've come here. Definitely wills are important. So with the UAE, you can register a will as a Muslim or a non-Muslim with the Abu Dhabi Civil Court, and it's really good. Obviously, it's not tried and tested because it's quite new. You've got the DIFC court, you've got Dubai court as well. So you've got 3 courts where you can register a will, and you need to get advice on which one suits you. Abu Dhabi court is obviously a lot cheaper, DIFC is a lot more expensive. So every court is different. But again, essentially, you have a will. In that will, you could put things down, such as if anything happens in relation to the kids, who's going to be the guardians. Because what happens is, if something, God forbid, happens to you and your wife, and your kids are left by themselves, who's going to be even their temporary guardian? Because if you've got mom and dad in England and they can't fly over like till 1 or 2 days later because they find out and they come across, who's going to be looking after the kids if something happens? You know, like even like a temporary guardian, could it be your friends? Could it be your neighbour? Could it be a relative you've got here who can collect the kids from school? They've got a legal document. So that's one important thing I would say to people, maybe having a temporary guardianship document. Also having a will just to put down who's going to be dealing with things, writing down their assets, what they have so far, but who's going to be dealing with anything in the UAE. So if God forbid something happens to you tomorrow, even if you're back in England, there's a will here. That person can be like, right, my brother had a will in Dubai, he's got bank accounts there, he had something else, they had a flat that he's renting. I'm sat here in England, what can I do? How do I deal with it? And usually and we haven't touched on inheritance, but it's a very vast subject. But that one, what would happen is that heir would have to literally either come to court here, whichever court it is, that the will is registered, and basically say that I am the brother or the father or whichever family member, and I'm one of the heirs, or I am I've got a relationship with the deceased. They essentially then give him like a power of attorney or a succession certificate, so that he or she, if it's your sister or something, they can go around to the banks or to the land department or whatever it is and deal with things, because the court's given them rights to do that. If they're not here, they kind of give a power of attorney to a lawyer on their behalf, and that lawyer can go out and do it as well. But generally you have to give you could get the UK registry or probate certificate as well and bring it over, but still the court here wants you to come. So it's not that straightforward still. The system does need updating, but they still want these successors or executors to come here and be able to then deal with things. But once you've got that certificate, you can then, it's like it's your account. So you could go to Emirates MBD or Mashruq Bank and be like, right, my brother had 100,000 dirhams in that account, that's fine, shut it down, and then this is who it will go to as per the certificate. He's got mom and dad still alive, he's got me, he's got a son, whoever, and whichever shares it is if you're Muslim. If you're non-Muslim and he had a will and it just said everything goes to my wife, and if she's alive and if she goes and all my kids equally, then that's what they'll do. Same thing applies. So it just depends who you are. But you still have to go through that whole power of attorney business, getting the certificate here from the court that has the will. Once you've got that, it's not too bad. Then you can always get a person here if you can't kind of be here all the time to deal with it. But if you already know someone here, which people do, it's always good because that person can deal with it on your behalf if you trust them. And then if you've got land, properties, it's like going to departments. So I think definitely wills, temporary guardianship. Also, if you are going to get married to someone and you both move out here, or you meet someone here, prenuptial agreement. If you're already married, maybe even having a post-nuptial agreement. So that could be filed. That would be...
What's a post-nuptial agreement?
So it's the same thing, just saying we have these kids, we have these properties already, we could accumulate more. But if we were to separate, or we were to have some issues or divorce, this is what we ideally want, so that if we just avoid it going to court. So you could say something like, we've got 3 properties, we've got this bank account, we've got this company, or 2 companies, we've got 3 kids. Ideally, we want joint custody for the kids. So you have a whole section on the kids, or not joint custody, they will live with mom, but I will have this much access and I'll be able to do this and this and this. If I want to take them away, she'll give me the passport, but she can keep them. So you have a whole section on the children, and then you have a whole section on financial. And when I say financial, it would be things like anything we own jointly will be split 50-50. We're not going to argue about that. However, in this property, she put more money than me. She gets that. In this one, that was money my dad gave me. I'm taking that. On anything else where it's equal, we will keep it. But if she says something her own, she can keep it. Also, she has a pension in the UK. I'm not going to touch it. Also, I have something my dad's given me. She's not touching that back in the UK. So that is important too. So you still could have a post-nuptial agreement. And it doesn't mean you're going to divorce. It doesn't mean anything's going to happen. It just means that you have this document that a court will look at. Should she turn around, or you turn around tomorrow and you want something different to what's in there. But you can still update this document as well. So it's not like it can't change. But people, when they get prenups or post-nuptial agreements, they get worried. Oh, does this mean like I'm heading for divorce? No. But some people are having issues. They might be separated, but they're not ready to divorce, but they want to see what happens, so they have this document done. So I had one lady, she was in Japan, she was British, husband was British, lived in Philippines for years, Japan. She contacted me. She was like, look, Samara, we've got lots of properties in the UK. We've got stuff here as well. He's been cheating on me. I don't want to end the marriage. They've been married for years. They'd grown up kids. I'm going to give him a second chance, but I want, because we've got so much going on. We've got lots of things in his name, lots of things in joint. I've got things as well. So they've obviously over the years accumulated a lot of wealth all over the world. So they were saying, we want to make sure we've got a document. So I can't get past the cheating, because sometimes you take someone back, but you can't get over it, especially women. I think they hold a bit more of a grudge. I think men, I don't know any man that's taken a woman back after cheating, but never say never. But women sometimes do go back, because her husband was begging her for forgiveness. She was like, I'm just going to go back. I'm just going to see what happens. But in a year or two, just say, I can't do it. At least we've got an agreement of what's going to happen. And he knows, and he's agreed to do it. Fine, that situation works. I've had loads of people here in the UAE. It's not really working out. We've got issues. I just don't want to running off with the kids. I want to be able to make sure I see my kids. I'm still going to give money for the kids, the school, the nanny, whatever she wants. She can stay in the villa. I just want to make sure that everything's clear. Fine. Doing a post-nuptial agreement. And sometimes after a couple of years, they have divorced. But then it makes things a lot easier. So I would recommend that as well. So wills, prenups, post-nups, temporary guardianship documents. Also making sure, like, visas and stuff. Should you divorce, obviously sometimes if you're employed by someone, that company can't keep you on. If your wife's, not in your visa anymore, they might say, well, you're divorced, we can't keep her on, we're not going to pay for that. It might also reduce some of your benefits that you're getting as part of your expat package or your allowances. So then also finding out about things like immigration. Would she need to change her visa on? Do we need to go get her a separate golden visa, an investor visa? So there's immigration things that you have to look at. Should you have your family living with you here? Parents come sometimes, they're like, I have my parents living here, what do I do with them? Because they're on her visa, and should I put them on mine? So kind of looking at a lot of things, to be honest. But yeah, I think these documents are important, especially with kids. Wills are important. If you don't have kids, I think just have a will, because if you've got anything here, and you might not think you've got a lot, but even if it's a bank account, it makes life a lot easier. Because I've had quite a lot of calls where they're like, hi, I'm so-and-so. He's not here anymore. He died in India, but he had quite a few things here. I'm his friend, and I need to deal with it. And he doesn't even have any family. But I'm over here. Can I deal with it? And then we're dealing with things. And we get lots of people from other countries like the US, Canada. Hi, my dad used to work out there. He's got this. What can I do? And we have to then guide them. So I think on that level, wills definitely. They're not hard to do. It's not, you normally just pay a fixed fee and get it done, get it registered, pay a fee at the court, and that's it. And then just give a copy to everyone saying, look, I've got a will in the UAE. And also, if you've got a home country with assets, have a will there as well. Just back yourself up. So if you've got things back in England that you might have two wills. Have a will here, have a will there. It's fine.
So essentially, wherever you've got assets, you want to consider having
it's like a mirror will. So just like tomorrow you go and invest in Singapore and you've got something set up there, have something there. Because the laws might be different there. They might not accept a UAE will, they might not accept a UK will, they might say, well, you should have registered one here with our government. So every country is different, but some countries are okay. They're like, if you've got one from the UK, we'll accept it. But some countries are specific, they want you to have their own. With UAE, you can bring a UK will, but I think they prefer you to have your own here. So that's why we're getting lots. And with Abu Dhabi court, it's great because you don't have to be resident here. As long as you've got something here, you could be sat anywhere in the world, you can file a will. You don't have to have a connection to Abu Dhabi, but as long as, if you want to write a will, they'll file it for you.
And you have to come physically, or you can do it online?
No, we'll do it for you, we'll register it for you. And you go online and just agree to it. That's it. And if you haven't got a visa, you just show your passport. This is me. My lawyer's done the will, and then they just literally approve you. So I do it all the time. So we just send them the link saying, we've filed your will, you've paid the court fee, now just go online on this time, and they go online and do it, and it's really straightforward. So Abu Dhabi court, everything is remote. So you could be sat in England, your wife could be here issuing divorce, and you're like, right, I'll log in. Yeah, I agree, and then that's it. They divorce you.
Last question, Samara. So we mentioned about the post-nuptial agreement. How do you advise that people go about that conversation? Because obviously it's very hard to bring it up, right? Because necessarily it means you're thinking about a bad scenario.
Yeah, it's a tricky one. I can't tell anyone how to bring that conversation up. I think just be mindful of how you say it, because then if you say, for example, you said it to your wife, she's like, well, what are you thinking about? Because they, it's not a conversation you have, but you get some couples that are like, no, we need to do one. The great thing is when people want to get married in Abu Dhabi, they automatically say, do you want a prenup, like a pre-marriage contract? And it's great because then it pushes people, we might as well just do one. And then they contact us, can you help us with it? Because we want it like this or that. I think bringing up a conversation, it could just be, look, we're expats, we're living here, it's not clear here, we've got young kids as well. We've got kids and they're at school or whatever. Should something happen, I think a post-nuptial agreement will be really clear about who looks after the kids. Should something happen to us, if we do separate or if something happens, who will take care of them. And also because we've got assets here, just being clear about it. Saying I would go like on that route. I wouldn't be like, oh, I'm doing it because I want to, I'm thinking about divorce. It could just be, look, we're expats here, we don't know the laws here, maybe having an agreement, making sure it's done properly, we've agreed to it, would make things easier should something happen, given that we're in 2 jurisdictions, or dealing with 2, which you are. I'm sure you've still got things back home.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of couples that are happily married, there's nothing wrong with that conversation. I've not even said it to my husband. So I'll be like, do you want to do? And he'd be like, why? He'd say the same thing to me. You're thinking about leaving, So it's quite, I understand.
Yeah.
So it's not something that I can prompt you.
You can't just bring it up over breakfast.
No, I think prenup, it's easier because you could be like, look, get married. I've got things from family. I've got things with my family members. I don't really, want it to get messy.
Yeah.
Do you think we should do it? So I think it's probably better to do it as a prenup. And it's getting more common. But I think post-nup, it's probably trickier. Most people do it when things are getting a bit difficult.
Yeah.
But then he or she might not want to do it.
And it might be too late as well.
But I think doing it when you're in a good stage is nothing wrong. It could just be, let's just kind of have it out because there's a lot going on.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's nothing to do with should we separate, because inshallah you don't. And that's the plan for everyone. You don't want to.
Yeah.
But people change, things change. Someone does something, you can't forgive them. Families get involved. There's so much that can change, God forbid. And I think it's just good to have a document that's clear. So wills, definitely, agreements, temporary guardianship. There's so many things that I could kind of go on and on about, and obviously we haven't got much time. But yeah, so I think it's very interesting because expats moving here need to know, have they got these boxes ticked as well? And I think people don't know.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, they move here and it's great. It's a fantastic place to live.
Yeah.
It's one of the safest places. I'm all about Dubai, come here, live here. And it's a great place to live. But I think we should also protect ourselves and our families as well.
100%.
We've got, especially you've got young kids, I've got young kids. It's scary because we don't always have our family members available. Something's happened, can you go collect them? We're stuck in, me and my wife went somewhere and something's happened. Anything could happen, God forbid. So you just need to make sure that inshallah things are in place. And I hope the listeners out there, they're listening and thinking, actually, we'll at least do a will, or we could do something else. Yeah,
for sure. Well, look, it's been really, really insightful, Samara. Thank you very much.
I hope so.
And for all of you who have any questions, please feel free to comment. We'll try and strong arm Samara into replying.
Just let your listeners know anyway, if they want to have a quick chat with me, 15 minutes, I always do that complimentary. So whether they have any documents done or they're not, they just want to have ask one question, feel free. They can email me, they can just ask me to call them. I can give them a quick call and be like, do you need it, do you not? Okay, they just want a little bit more information, it's not a problem.
Perfect.
Okay.
We'll put that in the comments, inshallah. Thank you very much, Samara, and nice to see you and nice to have you.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Thank you.